Hi, everyone. This is Rebecca Mejia, and today I'm with Mark Herman, who is the founder of Sympl, a very, very exciting tool for recruitment marketing. Something that I believe, Mark, and you can correct me if wrong, that it hasn't enough been developed, come up
Yeah.
for the HR technology environment. And I think it brings a huge value for the talent acquisition teams. So I'm very excited, to pick on your brain and understand how Sympl is helping recruitment in today's world. So
Okay, cool.
first question to you, Mark, first, if you want to start with an introduction and then we
No,
can
no, no.
start.
It's a wonderful insight. I could not have done it better myself.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for being here, Mark. And my first question will be, what is the value proposition of Sympl?
Okay, so the easy questions come first. All right, I think to be very honest, we're still trying to find a perfect product market fit. But if I would have to drill it down, we help, or our software helps HR teams to reach candidates through social media by automating campaigns on the most important platforms. It's a recruitment marketing platform for people without any marketing experience.
Okay, I love it. And I mean, your platform says, that you help recruitment teams to reach out to passive candidates, which is very interesting, right? Because usually those are the people that, sometimes we leave behind, and actually is where you can bring a lot of value. I love that part, So how does Sympl strategizes and uses technology to identify and reach out to these candidates?
Yes, it's a great question. Maybe just to put some numbers on there, because I think lots of people, what is passive candidates? Why would I have to reach them? At this moment, it's as difficult as maybe a year ago to find candidates, but for lots of companies, it remains an issue. There are less and less people actively looking for a job, because more people are being employed, are happy with their current role. It's important to reach those people and actually tell them a story, right? Tell them about a company they didn't know, about a function they weren't aware. It's all about creating your story and telling that story. Now, these people will never go onto a job board, right? Because they're not actively looking. They're not scraping Indeed or any local job boards. They will not come onto your beautiful employer branding website because they're not looking. But there's lots of them, right? And what we've discovered is that most of them can actually easily be reached through social media. Now, just to put some numbers on there, Indeed, which is the biggest job board in the world, has 580 monthly visitors. That's a massive amount of visitors. If you look at at LinkedIn, they have 1.2. It's double of Indeed, which is already, a lot more. But the big numbers are in the real social media. If you look at Instagram, 3 billion, Facebook almost 4 billion, and Instagram and Facebook together, which are known as Meta or the group Meta, they reach almost half of the global population, which has never ever happened before in history, right? So I think you have a beautiful medium there. And let's just focus on Meta for now, right? You have a beautiful medium there where people log in daily, right? Just to put the number for Belgium there, 84% of people in Belgium will log in to an app of Meta at least once a day, right? Okay. So you have a massive amount of possibilities to communicate with these people, to tell your story, to show your brand. But what most people, I know I'm getting a bit technical, most people will tell us, yeah, but we are on Facebook because we post on our Facebook page, right? And we have 10,000 followers, right? Now, you need to know, Meta, especially Mark Zuckerberg, they like to make money, right? So what they're not going to do is allow you to just post something on your brand, on your company page and show it to everybody because they know they're going to lose money. Right? So it's going to make your life difficult. And what you need to keep in mind is that it's called the 3% rule, right? Maximum 3% of the people that follow your page will actually see a post from your brand, right? And that's very, very, very tiny, right?
Yeah.
And most people think, yeah, we're active on Facebook because we post. You're not. Nobody will see you. And it ticks a box because you can tell your boss, we post every week. We post something on our Facebook page and I got 12 likes, right? But from a numbers perspective, that's peanuts. Now, how do these big companies make money? They make money by selling advertising. And I know that's a scary word, right? But the beauty of these platforms is that they're pretty cheap. And just to put a number on there, I like giving numbers because it makes it more concrete, right? For 50 euros per day, you will reach 10,000 people in your target audience, right? That's massive, right? And that means you can show these people your ad, which could be a 15-second video, which could be a great picture, etc., etc. Now, what we've noticed is I think that most HR people, and especially if they're listening to this podcast, they will be kind of aware of HR tech. They will be interested in HR tech. So, I don't probably have to convince them too much. But people, and especially in HR, will be quite afraid of saying, well, advertising, that's the marketing team, or I need an agency. That's not true. That's kind of what we built with Sympl to make it very easy for HR teams to actually get published and put advertising on those platforms where you can reach a massive amount of people as a canvas. But also, I think that's very important to keep in mind, building your employer brand, because there's still lots of people, when we have lots of B2B customers, which, they don't have the brands that are well known by consumers, but that's a real good medium to actually get out there and launch your brand.
Awesome. Okay.
I see you are thinking now, is he going to give these long answers every time?
You gave a lot of information, so I'm going to try, to summarize it, also, as an HR person, and a recruitment person. So, for those people that don't have recruitment or technical experience and find that, as you said, is scary, for me, it's very easy. I always say that recruitment is sales. Okay.
Yes, very true.
Okay. So, and you either wait for the clients to come or you make your product visible. There's a saying in my country, I'm going to try to translate it into English, that it says, if you don't show, you don't sell. So what I like about this is that we're taking the main conceptualization of marketing and we are bringing it to recruitment to advertise jobs.
Yeah.
Very simple. Okay.
Very.
And then we're going to go into more details, of course, but I already met Mark, and I wrote us that platform. And that's why, I was very interested in also meeting you and, having this conversation. But basically what Sympl does is funneling. It creates a series of advertisements,
100%.
Through social media so people can interact with them and create some sort of interest.
Yeah.
It's like, I really like this conceptualization also of marketing that, you don't sell what people need. You create a value of the product so people actually want it, right?
Yeah,
so
very true.
You make the product exciting. And so that's what I like about funneling marketing, that basically you create some sort of interaction that makes the person exciting. Are you looking for a new life, in remote work in beautiful Spain? Okay.
But I think that's an obvious one. But I think what we also notice is that we have quite a bit of non-profit organizations that use us, right? Because they have a very nice story to tell, right? But there's lots of people saying, well, I never knew that with my finance background, I could do a rewarding job in a not-for-profit, right? And so it helps you open their eyes in the funnel, right? And maybe they will hear about that, about a not-for-profit. Maybe they will not immediately apply, but at least you start triggering their interest and helping them down the funnel. Very.
I love that, creating an interest. What we're saying, we're not, you're not selling something that people need, you're creating a need, right?
Yeah.
So I love that part. And I also think it's important to mention, because you already mentioned it, but I think it's important, to make it clear, for an HR audience, because I see in my colleagues still a lot of fear about technology. And of course, there is a lot of buzzwords about AI, AI is going to take over my job. And I think sometimes that stops people in using technology. At least from my perspective, that should accelerate our knowledge and our need to skill up to make sure that we are top on the game. So there's a lot of people in HR with no marketing experience at all. In a very simple, in a very, concrete way, how difficult would you say that is for an HR person with no marketing background to put together a social media campaign for recruiting marketing?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think there's two elements, right? And what's going to be surprising is that you have a technical element and you have like a content or a messaging element, right? I see, and it's probably not what you would expect. Most HR teams are struggling with the messaging element. Now I'll come back to it in a second. Technically, meaning setting up advertising, it is quite complicated. Obviously, I'm going to explain why Sympl makes it so much easier and simple. If you would be using our software, it's going to be very easy. You just give basically a link to your vacancy text. Our AI will assess that. We'll start looking for the right pictures on your website, your logo. It will combine an advertising into the software, which you can then either adapt or you can basically just approve it and it will be launched. Right? I think there's two elements. There's two big elements in why people would be afraid from the technical side. One is indeed setting up the advertising. It has to be the right format. You have to choose the right platforms. If it's video, you need to make sure it kind of fits into the frame, etc., etc. Again, our software helps with that, and that's. I would also say something that if you're really passionate about it, if you're HR, you could probably learn that yourself. You could go into Canva. Canva has kind of a template for Instagram and for Facebook. So I think that's even something people, if they're really passionate and want to do that, they could do themselves. Where it gets really technical and quite complicated is that once you launch a campaign, and the big difference on social media versus, let's say, Indeed, if you put something on Indeed or any job board, there's an agreed pricing. You say, for 500 euros, I will be on the job board for a month, right? Here's my text. I pay credit card or the company gets the invoice, and I'll just wait and I hope that the candidates will come in, right? And most people can do that from the ATS. If they're ATS, if they don't, they can just kind of do it themselves. That's still relatively easy. The real difficulty lies in social media is that you have no clue whether for this particular campaign, Instagram will work better, Facebook might perform better, or TikTok, right? Where it's going to be picture A or picture B, and we might be talking about A/B testing later on. But that's where it gets really complicated. That's if you don't do that well, you can start spending lots of money, right? On the wrong channels, with the wrong formats. And I hope you'll be asking me questions about data and about managing data. Fantastic. We haven't prepared these people. There's just nothing. This is completely authentic. So yeah, there's a technical element, but there's a visible technical element with kind of getting in the right format. You can learn that. But managing campaigns and kind of optimizing, that's where it gets quite complicated. And again, our software will do that for you.
I love it. I love it. And also to once again, for people, look for with an HR background or, with curious about technology, but not techy enough yet, pretty sure that you're going to get there. It's basically, what I saw is that there's a lot of drag and drop. There is a lot of, pre-settings, and there's a lot of assistance by AI, which,
exactly.
So it allows you, come to superpower, your campaign creation. And you mentioned something very important. I don't want to mention names of other things that is not social media, because there's a lot of job boards out there, and probably you're not going to be posting this in different places. But there's places where you spend a lot of money, and the conversion rate is very low. We have launched campaigns, for my clients or different companies, in different platforms. And for me, social media has the best conversion when it comes to investment, the best one.
Yes.
Okay.
So exactly.
And then you have the other situation. Everyone looks at their cell phone. Okay. Everyone is either in TikTok, Instagram, and Meta. So I think, there's a lot of value there. And for everyone, who's interested and curious about the topic, I will invite them to join, to go to Sympl website, and to ask for a demo or to check any videos that are available. We'll make sure that to post, and also whenever we post these video, this podcast.
Can I just pick on the point you mentioned about mobile, because that's really very interesting. I would challenge everybody who's currently listening to try and apply on your company website with their mobile. Right? Because what we still see is lots of people basically making it mandatory to upload your resume or to make an account. And then once you make an account, you have to go to your email to confirm the account. It's absolutely horrible. I'm sure that we're not going to be talking about candidate experience for a long time because it's not the most important part, but it's horrible. And we see companies spending lots of money on advertising, even on social media, and then sending people to a page hosted by SAP where they have to make an account, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you just lose them, right? 97% of people on social media are on their mobile, right? And you need to take that into account. You need to have a look at your website and do the process yourself, right? And I can, hands down, many people will be really surprised saying, well, that's actually quite difficult. And then you shouldn't be surprised you don't have any applications.
Yeah. Yes. I 100% agree with you. Before, we go into the next question, I also want to say that, I see a lot of companies still, with legacy application processes. And then immediately, as you see that the process gets too complicated, people drop out because technology has advanced so much
Yes.
that design thinking in the user experience is fundamental. People want to touch buttons. Yes, no, green, white, you name it, right? And then if we made the process 10 steps, as you say, I need to create an account. I need a good password. Password has to, the usual stuff, right? Then, of course, it makes it more difficult. And that's why I like about the mini landing pages in the funneling marketing.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I think what again, a very good point you made. And I think what most people do when they develop their website, they will look at their competition and they will look at the employer branding website of their competition and say, look, well, we want something similar, etc., etc. What you don't understand is that on social media and online in general, your competition is Amazon. Your competition is Zalando, and that's the user experience that people are used to. And that's what people, rightly so, are saying, why should it be more difficult to apply for a job that is to buy a pair of shoes online, right? And there's a massive difference, right? And there's no way, and that's how people will compare it. They will not compare, well, I'm now applying on company A, this is easier than company B. No, they compare with all their user experience they have on their mobile.
Yeah. We need to make the experience friendly because
Exactly.
we live in a digital world. So
Very true.
Fundamental. Okay. So going back to the features of Sympl, I understand that you have a chatbot to improve the candidate experience. So can you walk us, how this chatbot, interacts during the different parts of the journey and what is the added value?
So basically what happens is that when people will come onto a landing page, they will have, a very mobile friendly landing page, which also means that our AI will write, we know you should be looking at maximum 350 words for your vacancy when people are reading that online. Again, I challenge you to go check your own vacancies, right? Whether that's the case. If it's too long, people will move away. Secondly is also, and then we come back on the technical part, make sure your page uploads quickly. Right? Because if people have to wait 2-3 seconds before the page is loaded, again, they will leave. But if they read your vacancy and it's well written and it's short and they want to apply, to your point, we don't want to push them into making an account and asking a password, etc., etc. On the other hand, what's also very important is that you don't want to make it too easy, right? Because if you just say, look, leave your email, right? And that's very, very easy, but you will get a lot of noise, right? You will get lots of emails, and then your recruiters are going to have to kind of look on, okay, where are they? Send them an email, they don't respond. You don't know anything about it. So you need to find this kind of sweet spot between not making it too difficult for people to actually apply, but also not too easy, because if it's too easy, it's just, too much work and you will lose the right candidate. So why we're using a chatbot is that we wanted to make it interactive. It's not an open chatbot in the sense that people can just ask any questions. They will get specific questions for that vacancy. We try to ask them questions which are as much either multiple choice or don't require lots of typing. They will have the possibility to upload their resume, but it's not mandatory. And that's really something I want to stress again. Do not make that mandatory. In our software, they will answer questions. If they don't have their resume, they will still be able to apply, but they will then get an email saying, hey, Rebecca, thanks for applying. I noticed you hadn't uploaded your resume. Can you still do that? And then when people reply to that via email, that will get automatically linked to the account, to candidate. We have 65%, on average, 65% of people actually reply within 2 days. There's two ways of looking at it, right? Some people say, oh my God, I have 35% of candidates without a resume. That is very true, right? On the other hand, you will get lots more higher conversion. You will have lots more candidates that are still interested, because what we notice is that when people start a chatbot and then they have some questions, which ideally you would make relevant to the vacancy. So if it's an operator, you ask them about, can you work on the weekends? If it's an accountant, it's about, can you work with this software? So people really understand, wait, this is not just random questions. People have thought about these questions, and that reassures people. And then that will also convince them to answer that. We still see about 30%, so 30% of people actually dropping out. We've tested that. And what's interesting is that these are actually people who say, well, when I got the questions, I realized I hadn't read the vacancy properly.
Yeah.
And then it becomes also a kind of filtration approach, right? And again, these are pretty basic stuff. right? I'm sure when people listen to it, they're saying, oh my God, this is like nuclear science. But it's amazing how few people think about that. How few people think about, well, maybe we shouldn't ask everybody their national registration number at this stage, because why would you need it? Right? You only want to know, is this a good candidate for me to take further down that funnel? Because of course, the funnel continues after the application.
Yeah. Yes. I think also, for the audience, it's I think that interaction, that digital interaction, helps you to clean up the application process. If you have very low conversion rates and you are a company, medium, small, large, where you get, just to give you an example, the usual 300 applicants where just 35% actually kind of meet the criteria, and then you have an 8% conversion rate. You still have to do a lot of work. Even though AI is helping a lot now in the ATSs, you still have a lot of work to do. So if you have this funneling interaction, you're already saving a lot of time. So I agree with you. You're not losing, you're gaining time. And also you're creating a better candidate experience because you avoid frustrations from both ways. If I go to an interview and the person doesn't meet the criteria because probably the CV was misleading, then I also get frustrated.
Yeah,
right?
And just maybe to build on that, because what's important, gets maybe a bit technical, but maybe some people will be interested, right? Is that actually getting clicks from Meta to a vacancy page is very, very easy, right? You put a picture of a nice dog, right? With somebody with a big smile, and people will always click on that. But you want the right clicks. You want people who actually are interested in that job. And so also there, it's better to think about, let's show authentic, real pictures. Let's not make it too much of a marketing play and, show some top models on there, because you want people who are really the right audience to click to your page. And why is that important? Because that is data that Meta can then use to understand, look, if these people are interested by your advertising, right, and they stay on your page for 30 seconds, they read 75% of your vacancy, we're going to try and find similar people to that. And then you get this, what is called the Meta flywheel, is that the more data you can spin back to Meta about, look, these are interesting candidates for us, right? The more data like that Meta has, the better their targeting will be. The 10,000 people they will show it to are even going to be more relevant than before. And that's when you can start to get really interested and the flywheel starts to work.
Perfect. And that takes us to the data, right? If you think about recruitment marketing campaigns, the fundamental thing that we need to show to the company is, where is my money? Okay. So what is the return of investment? Because if I spend, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, you name it, right, in X amount of advertisements, and I have 0 hires, something is not working. And we have seen it many times, right? And there is a lot of frustration for all parties. I love A/B testing. I'm a person who loves, testing everything before, I go crazy. So just walk us through, how Sympl allows to visualize the performance of the campaigns.
Yeah. Okay. So, and maybe just to explain, when you set up a campaign, we will always ask to kind of upload at least 2 or 3 different pictures so we can test. When a campaign then goes live, we develop what is called a testing protocol, and we will start continuously. We always have 4 different advertisings that we test, and we then start measuring which one of this is performing on benchmark. If it's not on benchmark, we will replace it with another one. And then we kind of go down a whole kind of testing protocol just to make sure that for that particular vacancy, we spend your money or the money of the customer as efficiently as possible. And that's really, really valuable data. And that also means that when the campaign is running, you'll be able to see that, look, which ads have been running, have been kind of turned off. How is TikTok performing versus Instagram? You can actually see that in a dashboard, right? But I always tell customers and I always tell people when I show the ads, but then we're saying, this data is there for your information, right? So don't be scared, right? Because all of the numbers, our software will make sure that we will test if TikTok is performing better than Instagram. Then we will kind of stop Instagram. We will transfer the budget to TikTok. All of that is done in our software. But it's fascinating to see how things will change. And 1 month an operator campaign, one visual will be performing better the month after. There's another visual. So there's lots of elements playing around. So that's what's happening in the background. We visualize this by kind of making it very clear for customers that, when they look at their campaign, they can see which variants are currently live. So what is being seen by customers canvas, sorry, now. And then they will also be able to see what are the ads that are not performing well, that have been turned off. And they can see all of that in a live dashboard in the software. Secondly, they can look at, let's say, what did we do the last quarter? What's our cost per application? What was our, cost per click? All of that data can be seen for a certain time period. They can then drill down and say, look, I want to know what I did for developer functions, right? Because you want to know what has been working for developers, are different channels working there. So all of that data can be just drilled down and sliced and diced in the analytics module in our software.
I love it. I love it. Data is fundamental for making decisions, especially when you're investing money, and also the comparison. I love the idea of the optimization, self-optimization. That we are recalibrating that part. Also, I believe is very important when you're using technology. For me, with technology, you always need to retweak. Okay,
yeah.
So I find that also very positive from the tool. Exciting.
We love it. We also sometimes think we shot ourselves in the foot with it. And let me explain why. Because what happens is that when you run campaigns through our software, like I said, you will know from the first click until the application. We will track everything. We will tell you what your cost per application is, etc., etc. It's the price that see, I'm flabbergasted because surprising is not strong enough. I'm actually flabbergasted when people say, well, your campaign wasn't really working well, or we're a bit disappointed. And then I ask them, okay, so what have you spent on Indeed? What's your customer application on Indeed? And they're not able to tell me, right? Because yeah, but we always spend money on Indeed, right? We're always in a newspaper. We're always on this job board. But so few companies are, even today, still able to track, right? When people come onto the website to know where are they coming from, were they coming through Google, are they coming through Indeed? And therefore that becomes a bit of a black box, right? Because they always done it. And then when they see our data, they have actually no benchmark. I mean, sometimes challenge people, and I hope they will kind of convince me, but Stepstone, when you ask Stepstone, what is your cost per application? Their official number is 220 euros, right? Ours is 40, right? We still have customers looking and saying, well, 40 euro per candidate, that's quite a bit of money. But they're not able to tell me what do they pay for their other candidates. So that's really kind of where sometimes when you provide lots of data, you sometimes get kind of punished because they're not able to kind of have that same data tracking across all their channels.
Yeah, not at the detail that you're explaining. It's I agree with you. I mean, you're not gonna be able to compare. And I also believe, what we were discussing at the beginning. I think that people don't understand. Some companies still don't understand yet the impact of recruiting marketing in social media. Okay, we still following a lot of the conventional ways, job boards in the usual places, and usually very, very expensive. So yeah. Okay, going to the next question because we're already over, almost in 30 minutes, but this is an exciting conversation. So I'm pretty sure that we can continue more and more. But trying, come to keep the flow. From social media platforms, do you see any differences, between Meta, Instagram, TikTok? What are your insights there? And now Generation Z coming into the table, do you see new trends happening in these different social medias?
Yeah, I think the cliche, and I think the cliche, it's a cliche for a reason, but in along, if you want to chop it down, you could say, look, Facebook is obviously for a more older, and I'm 52 myself, so I would count myself on that. Facebook is a bit more older. Then you have Instagram, right? And then at the whole beginning, you have TikTok, right? That is still true in large lines, but on the other hand, and maybe I ask the question, how much percentage of all TikTok users, right? How many of those do you think are older than 29? And Rebecca, I'm not saying 29 is old. I'm just putting it as a number there. But how much do you think are older than 29?
What percentage?
Of TikTok users are older.
Yeah, and don't worry about ages. I'm 42 and I'm 5. So.
Okay.
Wow. I mean, my kids use TikTok, so I will say, but I also have TikTok and I like it.
Very good point.
I will say, I don't know, 50%?
Spot on. 54%.
Wow.
And that's crazy because, well, you're the first one getting even close to that number. Because most people think, well, it's for my kids, it's people doing funny dances, etc. Now, if you look at the daily usage, saying how much time are people spending on TikTok per day, obviously the younger spend more time than the plus 29, right? But if you're talking about reaching, if you're saying, look, I want to reach people between 30 and 45, you can do that on TikTok. And it will be a lot cheaper even than Instagram and Facebook. But the real answer is, and I know when we started 10 years ago, we actually hoped there was this kind of silver bullet where you would say, look, for blue collar people, it's X% on TikTok, X% on Instagram, and X%, and that will always work. It's never the case. It's never the case. And that's also why we always advise our customers to say, look, start with all channels on, right? That our algorithm define what is right for you, right? Because you never know upfront what's going to happen. I'll give an example on that in a second. The only thing what we always advise, and that might be surprising, do not use LinkedIn anymore. LinkedIn to reach candidates is too expensive. It's not efficient. Remember when I said 84% of people open one app of Meta per day? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the same number for LinkedIn, it's 4% of people open LinkedIn on a daily basis. So they reach much less people than they do. So the message would be, do not use LinkedIn anymore. And secondly, when you do a campaign, start with all three and then see what's working best for you at that moment in time.
Yeah. Yes. Because I'm the person hosting the podcast. I cannot say 100%. But I agree. Okay. I agree. I have seen the numbers. Okay. I'm gonna leave it there. Okay. So, okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Very good answer. Usual question. From the technology perspective, something very important is always the integration. To Sympl easily integrate with different ATSs.
Yeah. Yes, so we integrate with about 80 ATS systems, going from SAP, as I mentioned before, to Recruity, all the kind of usual suspects. Also HRI systems like HiBop we integrate with. So people will then kind of set up the campaign in Sympl. There's going to be a pop-up where you can just link to, and you can actually see your vacancies in SAP or in your other ATS. You click it, and then all your candidates, after they have responded to the questions in the chatbot, all that data will be sent straight to your ATS, and then you can track the candidates in your own ATS system.
Awesome. What about data privacy? How are you making sure, that we're taking care of, this is a very, hot topic,
very good
it
point.
has been, yes.
So we are, in this case, as I just explained, we are data processor, right? When people apply to that chatbot, at the end, they will have to opt in. So they actually say, yes, I agree that my data will be shared with Sympl and also with the company and with the employer. If they do not agree, they get a message, sorry, we can't accept your application. And then we cannot pull the data in. So people have to opt in. And once they have opt in, we can pull in the data. We're the data processor. And then obviously the owner is the employer that has set up the campaign.
Awesome. Okay. And then this is more, into your journey during the last 10 years. What has been the biggest lesson?
God, I think that's a question that I would have loved to be able to think a bit about that one. But the biggest lesson is that everything changes all the time. Everything changes all the time on social media. It's that we are now a completely different company than we were 1 year ago. The way we develop our software, the way we bring it to market, the way it looks in a way, but you have to continuously kind of check out the new channels, what is working better. TikTok was going very strong at a certain moment. Now I think, especially with Reels on Instagram and Facebook, they have really caught up, and that has hurt TikTok. And it's the legislation changes also a lot. In 2022, basically Facebook made it a lot more difficult for employer advertising. So they had a lot. The targeting possibilities were a lot more complicated. So you cannot target on age anymore. You cannot target on gender. And I fully agree, to be very clear, right? But of course, these changes, once you develop a platform and then Facebook changes the rules, you have to kind of completely revisit your targeting. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we really think our value proposition works, is because HR teams and even marketing teams, I would say, in companies, they do not have the time, they do not have the skill to take this change, to track what's happening, because that will have a lot of impact on how your budget is spent. So that change, as I mentioned, when we started, we hoped that we would do some tests and we would say, here it is, the holy grail. and let's kind of start printing money now, right? That hasn't happened yet.
Okay, hope it happens very soon.
Yes, thank you. I hope all your listeners will start getting a subscription on Sympl soon.
Awesome. That was, I mean, we are gonna need to close very soon, even though I really enjoyed the conversation, and thank you very much for providing,
Pleasure.
all these details. I have two things more, come to ask. The first one will be, what interesting features are coming to the table?
Okay.
If you can share, of course.
I think what we're now wanting to do is that we have AI helping to set up campaigns and basically kind of write text for you, make a video, make your visuals. We are using our algorithm and obviously machine learning in the background to kind of optimize campaigns. What we're hoping to do is actually translate that to kind of the user, saying, look, we think your campaign would work better if you would do this. We think your text, that your vacancy text is just incomprehensible and people will not understand it, to kind of give that live feedback when the campaign is running. That's something we're looking at now.
Awesome. Before I go into the final question, I would like to make a statement. I've been working in HR and recruitment for 18 years.
Okay.
For me, the recruitment marketing...
Probably you were 9.
Yeah, no, I started when I was very young. I'm 42, but I graduated very young. So I started very, very young as well. I was in university. I find that recruitment marketing topic fascinating because of what we were saying at the beginning, that recruitment is sales at its core. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, having this knowledge for an HR recruiter person, it's an incredible value. So I will invite everyone listening to this podcast or watching the video to get curious and, to reach out to you or, to come out to check videos or to check online and just listen and watch or try whatever, but give it a chance, because I see it, for example, in different companies that, especially once you do advertisement, you depend on a lot of people. Who's going to create a design? The employer branding. Is it compliance with this? Is it compliant with that? Is it the text okay? Do we need to change the copy? There's so many people involved, to put together a campaign. Sympl simplifies it and consolidates the whole cycle in just one place. I love that, because recruitment is velocity. If I take a month or 2 weeks or 7 days to put together a campaign, I'm already behind.
Yeah, very true. And I think, can I add on that, or is there, let's look at 30 seconds?
Yeah, of course. No, I still have one question to go.
Okay, fantastic. But I mentioned at the beginning where I said, look, there's two elements. There's a technical element for a campaign and there's a messaging element. And this might be a good moment to talk about that, because what we know is that the biggest success factor for a campaign is how well you are able to define the value proposition and the reason for people, sorry for the buzzword, what's in it for the candidate. And I'm still, again, flabbergasted when I talk to HR people and I tell them, look, imagine you're sitting at a bar tonight and next to the table next to you, you hear somebody complaining about their job, right? Are you able to kind of in 20 seconds, 30 seconds, tell that person, look, you should come and apply at our company for this and this reason? 95% of people are not able to answer that question. And if you're not able to answer that question on how in 20 seconds you could convince somebody to come and work for you, that's the biggest problem in recruitment marketing. It's not about the technical aspect, about the right format, and it's about how can you distill for people, because remember, people scroll 120 meters per day on their iPhone, right? Per day, 120 meters, right? So you get a very short moment to tell them, this is why you should click and come to look at the vacancy of our company. And that's not technicalities. That's not using our software. That's being able to kind of distill why should people come and work for you. And I'm so surprised so few people are able from the bat saying, this is the reason. And that's, I think, if you can't do that, don't worry about which tools you will need. That's the first question you need to be able to answer.
Yeah. I agree with you. Sales speech, I always said, to the teams and everything, you need to have a very clear sales speech.
Exactly.
And that gives you a lot of consistency and also creates a lot of engagement. A lot of people will come back to you and say, I love, how you transfer the information, how I was very clear from the beginning about the whole thing. So yes. Okay. So finally to, come to close the conversation, Mark, for HR people out there or recruitment people out there, what will be your closing message?
You're so lucky, right? Because I think you're at an era where there's going to be a massive kind of change in HR. And what do you call it that? We say always HR people need to become marketeers. You say they need to become salespeople. I think we're saying the same thing. I think this is a moment where you can basically, as a recruiter, right? As a recruiter, there's so many opportunities out there. As I mentioned, you can reach half of the world, right, through Meta. That has never happened. This is a kind of a leverage moment. This is a real moment in time where you can make a real difference in how your company approaches recruitment marketing. Take that opportunity, either with our software, ideally, or do it yourself. But this is the moment you should grasp.
Yeah, I love it. It's a very nice closing message. The same message for everyone. Be curious, try technology, be open to digitizing your processes, and look for tools that consolidate. I like that, because I think something that I see, especially in the startup environment, is that you see a lot of people, using a lot of transformers, a lot of pieces from different places. So when you find a tool that consolidates and brings you in one place the whole solution, I love it. And I think Sympl does that for recruiting marketing.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Mark, thank you very much, for joining me. It has been an amazing conversation. So I appreciate taking the time and talking to me.
You're too kind. It's the same for me. Great questions. Thank you very, very much. It's been very, very pleasant. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.